Now, here's the way you should start the problem. First, look for a GCF. Okay, that's what you should do first. And then factor out what's common to each one of these terms. Now notice this is not equal to 0. You're not solving. Then you still bring down the 5. Don't lose it. It is a factor. And then factor again. Factors of x squared are x times x. And the factors of 8 that are going to give you a middle term are 4 and 2. 4 times 2 is 8. We want the middle term to be negative 2x, so negative 4x and positive 2x is negative 2x in the middle, and negative 4 times positive 2 is negative 8, and that's the answer. It's multiple choice. You're going to look for that answer. Now, if you started the problem out and you did not take out the GCF, so I'm factoring this as 5x and x, which makes it a little bit tougher because now we need the factors of 40 that are going to give us 10x in the middle. But if we do that, we could do 10 here and 4. We want to make it a positive 10x and a negative 20x to give you negative 10x in the middle. And then a positive times a negative is a negative. Perhaps this answer is there as a multiple choice, but it's not correct because this term has a GCF. It's not factored completely. So if you then take 5 out, you now have the same thing that you have up here. So the process that we do when we solve a square root equation, first we isolate the square root. That's number 1. But if it's already isolated for you, then you can move to step 2. Step 2 is to square both sides because that gets rid of the radical. So I'm going to square the left-hand side and I'm going to square the right. Now because it's a binomial and I want to make fewer mistakes, then I'm going to write 2y minus 7 so that I know that I'm going to use FOIL. Squaring the left-hand side is just 6y minus 11. You get what's underneath the radical. The other side I'm using FOIL. 2y times 2y is 4y squared. The outside is negative 14y. The inside, negative 14y. The last term's positive 49. Now you just have a regular equation to solve. It is a quadratic, so you're going to want to set it equal to 0, factor, and solve. So I'm going to subtract 6y, and I'm going to add 11. And I'm going to be doing it right here. Okay. So I have 0 equals 4y squared. Now I have a negative 28y and a negative 6y is a negative 34y. All of these y's in here. And then I have a positive 60. Now remember what I just said from the last problem. Let's factor out a GCF first. It makes your work easier. So I have 0 equals, and I'm going to factor out a 2 and get 2y squared minus 17y plus 30 equals 0. But remember the 2 is a factor. We don't lose it. We bring it down and factor again. We're factoring 2y squared into 2y times y, and the factors of 30, we're getting 5 and 6, but I need a middle term of negative 17. So I'm going to put the 6 out here, so that will give me 12, and put the 5 in here, and 12 and 5 is 17. I need both of them to be negative to get a negative 17y, and then a negative times a negative is a positive 30. Now the 2 is a factor, but I do not set it equal to 0 because 2 is never going to be equal to 0. So I have 2y minus 5 equals 0. Add 5 and divide by 2. And y minus 6 equals 0. Y equals 6. Now, this is worth 4 points, part 2, because you're not done. If you fail to check, then you're going to lose points because perhaps one of them doesn't work. Go back to the original equation. So let's take, I don't have a lot of room here. the square root of 6 times 5 halves minus 11 equals 2 times 5 halves minus 7. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 minus 11 is 4, and the square root of 4 is 2. We're only talking about the principal or positive square root here. Then I have 2's divide out, and I have 5 minus 7 is negative 2. We're not looking for a positive and negative square root here, therefore 5 halves is not a solution. When I check 6, I have the square root of 6 times 6 minus 11 equals 2 times 6 minus 7. 36 minus 11 is 25, and the square root of 25 is 5. And 2 times 6 is 12 minus 7 is 5. The only solution that works is 6. And this is part 2. Make sure you check a square root problem.